Devils Monday. This is The Woo Report. The Woo Report. Episode 450. Coming to you live from the bunker, inside the bunker, in an undisclosed location in beautiful New Jersey, away from those drones flying around in northern Jersey. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. As big news happening today on this fine Monday, Jacques Lemaire will be at the Rock January 22nd, I believe, against the Boston Bruins, to have his name added to the Ring of Honor for the New Jersey Devils at the Prudential Center. Jacques Lemaire. Who doesn't love Jacques Lemaire? Well, actually, I shouldn't even say that. New Jersey Devils fans love Jacques Lemaire. I'm sure Montreal Canadiens fans love Jacques Lemaire. The Minnesota Wild love Jacques Lemaire. And it's an honor to have him back at the Rock, as he was the Devils head coach. It was the turning point in the franchise's history when Lou Lamoriello hired Jacques Lemaire after 1 year of Herb Brooks. Yes, Herb Brooks, the Miracle on Ice coach. He coached the year before. But when Jacques Lemaire was hired alongside Larry Robinson, two former Montreal Canadiens, the franchise changed. It went into a different direction, a direction that led to 3 Stanley Cup championships. It led to the development and also, well, it also led to having one of the greatest or the greatest goaltender of all time, Martin Brodeur. And Jacques Lemaire had a big hand in all that. Now, as you can remember, Jacques Lemaire had a few tours of duty with the New Jersey Devils. Actually, I think he had 3 tours of duty. The first time being hired in 93, the 93-94 season, which I thought that team, the 93-94 Devils, even though they didn't make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, in my mind, they are a top 5 team, Devils team in Devils history. That's just my opinion, of course. My opinion only. But that 93-94 team, Scott Stevens was robbed of the Norris Trophy that season because it had to go to Brian Leetch, if I'm not mistaken. And then Marty Brodeur, rookie goaltender, winning the Calder that year. But Jacques Lemaire did more than the neutral zone trap. He changed the entire mindset of the New Jersey Devils, who at that time hadn't won a Stanley Cup ever in franchise history, was on the verge of possibly moving, who knows. They were in a market that was saturated. At the time period when Lemaire was hired, you had the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Hartford Whalers, all within a 100-mile radius. But what Jacques Lemaire did, and this is what teams do, it's a copycat league. What teams do is, hey, we'll copy what the Montreal Canadiens did. And they went to that pipeline, the Montreal Canadiens pipeline. And Jacques Lemaire became head coach. in the 93-94 season, leading the Devils to the Eastern Conference Finals. I won't go any further, but eventually it led to the 95 Stanley Cup. The neutral zone trap there was a spotlight on the neutral zone trap. The system that Jacques Lemaire implemented. Strong team defense. Timely goal scoring. Waiting for your opponent to make a mistake before you pounce. And that defense served Martin Brodeur very well. A lot of people say that Martin Brodeur was the product of the neutral zone trap. His success. I say that's hogwash because Martin Brodeur was the best goaltender for the neutral zone trap. Having the ability to not see a shot for 17 minutes, but would be on standby to take a barrage of shots for the next 3 minutes after being cold for 17 minutes. And it was a great combo to have Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermayer, Ken Danico on defense with Martin Brodeur in net. And Jacques Lemaire was a heck of a coach. It was team defense. It was discipline. Paying attention to details. Simplifying the game. Jacques Lemaire brought winning and a championship mindset to the New Jersey Devils, which fans are grateful for because that 95 Cup team, the Devils at the time period needed to win in the worst way. And then following year, the Devils didn't make the playoffs. It happens. A little letdown. Last game of the season against Ottawa. I think Radek Bonk had 2 goals that game when the Devils had a chance to clinch the 8th seed. Moving forward, the 97-98 seasons. I think it was 96-97 and 97-98. Martin Brodeur had goals against average under 2 in both seasons. I believe Mike Dunham and Brodeur did win the Jennings one of those seasons. I know Wimpy would know something like that. But eventually, Jacques Lemaire was let go. You know Lou Lamoriello. I mean, Jacques Lemaire in his first tour of duty lasted pretty long. And they brought in Robbie Ftorek, if I'm not mistaken, who continued that championship mentality with quite some building in an offense, which eventually led to the A-line. But eventually Ftorek was fired, and then Larry Robinson came in again, who was the assistant coach to Jacques Lemaire in his first tour of duty, and then winning the Stanley Cup in 2000, which was an amazing, amazing run as well. Having to go through the Philadelphia Flyers down 3-1. But I think a lot of it, credit goes to Jacques Lemaire. Then Larry Robinson gets fired. Then Kevin Constantine had a little stint there and then led to Pat Burns. And then 2003, Devils win the Stanley Cup. Wimpy remembers the famous bench throw by Robbie Ftorek. Yes, that was pretty cool, in my opinion. Something you don't really see too much in today's world. But Lemaire did come back to the Devils. I believe after the Brent Sutter era, Lemaire did come back to the Devils. But it was short-lived because of They got into the playoffs, but there's not much success. And I believe he came back after Johnny McLean was fired for having a horrendous start. But I remember when he did come back, the Devils were having a horrible start to the season. Horrible start to the season, sorry. And he had to kind of reteach them how to even hold the stick and how to skate. But eventually they finished the season pretty strong but didn't make the playoffs. But that was it for Lemaire. That's when Lou Lamoriello hired Peter DeBoer, and the Devils went on that tear to get into the Stanley Cup Finals in 2012. But Jacques Lemaire deserves this honor, the Ring of Honor. His name will be forever at the Prudential Center. And he was one of the premier coaches in the NHL. If you go to pucksandpitchforks.com, Nick Villano, my co-host of State of Fan Address, wrote a nice article about him, saying that Lemaire is one of the premier coaches in the sport, winning Jack Adams Award, which is basically the Coach of the Year award, twice, not once but twice. Once with the Devils in '94, coached for 17 seasons and ranked 22nd all-time with 617 wins. He coached the Canadiens before the Devils, and he coached the Minnesota Wild in between two Devils stints. But yeah, Jacques Lemaire also, if you remember, reinvented Scott Stevens' career. Scott Stevens was a two-way defenseman. He could hit you hard, but he could also score. But it was Jacques Lemaire that got Scott Stevens to focus on his defense. Scott Stevens, Hall of Famer. Just amazing impact on the Devils players. Also, if you remember when Sergei Brylin was named, you couldn't help but think about Jacques Lemaire, who is right now currently a special assistant to Lou Lamoriello for the New York Islanders. But he is to be the third inductee into the Devils Ring of Honor. I see a lot of comments on the YouTube Live. Selected Boy says he deserves that Ring of Honor. Of course he does. Wimpy says not just the system, but the commitment. Yeah, I mean, look, Jacques Lemaire said it best. It doesn't matter what system you use. As long as the players believe in it, it's a great system. He got the players to buy in. It's not easy with that many egos in the locker room, especially during that time period when he coached, to manage them and get every player to buy in. Now, not every player did buy in. And also it did help that Lou Lamoriello bought in. But the neutral zone trap, especially before the new NHL era, where you had that red line, was extremely effective. Of course, it got a lot of bad press because it was considered boring hockey by the media. But to be honest with you, I thought close games was never boring. I thought winning was never boring. I loved the neutral zone trap because I love defense, me personally as a fan. And as a fan, nothing gets me more fired up when the opposing team has no firepower and can get the puck to your goaltender. Just shutting down a team's offense, there's something about it for me that I really like. And Jacques Lemaire had the system to do that. And yes, Jacques Lemaire is a true New Jersey Devil. Again, let me repeat that again. Jacques Lemaire is a true New Jersey Devil. It's in our DNA now. Coming from Montreal, it was Jacques Lemaire that brought New Jersey a cup for the first time in its history back in '95. And I cannot wait to go to that game in January at the Prudential Center. All right, we're going to wrap things up here. Just wanted to do a little woo report about Jacques Lemaire. We're going to have Game Day Live and Devils After Dark tomorrow for the Devils take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are in town, and I'm sure Sheldon Keefe would like to get a win in this game. Devils got blown out 4-0 yesterday. Sorry, folks, about last weekend. Was traveling. I went to the Big Ten championship game. Had a great time. I'm still exhausted from that trip. It was a lot of driving. It was a lot of fun. I finally got the podcast up on our podcast pages. So sorry about that. Apologize. I'm going to be dropping this podcast at midnight. Want to thank all those tuning in. I see Wimpy saying that Pando got busted open like Terry Funk at Joe Louis that night. I think he's talking about the famous bench throw by Robbie Fatorik. Michael Descala says the refs were horrible, Sam. I'm assuming you were talking about that Big Ten championship game, which during the game, I was so mad because DJ Yoshi, who used to DJ for the New Jersey Devils, he's the DJ for the Big Ten. I wanted to go see him, but I was so mad. You can ask Mrs. Wu this. But I was still in control, but I was so mad about that game. In the middle of the game. I was like, this is rigged. The refs were so bad. And it happens to be the refs in that Big Ten championship game happen to be the same refs that ref the Penn State-Ohio State game, which I thought that game was rigged as well. And isn't that something that Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, has been pouring so much money into the University of Oregon, basically trying to guarantee that they will win a national championship, and he will do as what he can to make that happen. Replays without any explanations. My conspiracy theory continues. Anyway, enough about Penn State football. Blessing in disguise. Anyway, I love how the seeding came out in the college football playoffs. But yes, we will be back tomorrow. Game Day Live and Devils After Dark after the game. And hopefully the Devils have a wonderful victory we could be all proud of. But it's great news. Jacques Lemaire forever will be in the Ring of Honor in January for that ceremony. But yes, hopefully the Devils will have a victory that night as well. Alrighty. Thank you to everybody. Till next time, this is the Woo Report. Let's go Devils.